Well, he may have been the godfather of pizza, but presidential candidate Herman Cain says that his rise to king of the GOP pack, well, it does have its downfalls. Cain says that he feels like he has a bullseye on his back since his major upset at the Florida straw poll. And despite nearly constant questions, he says he is in it to win it in this race, that is. Joining me now, Daily News columnist and host of The Five, Andrea Tinteros, Fox News political analyst Angela McClowan, and radio talk show host Mary Walter. And welcome for the first time to Mary. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about the latest news on the Herman Cain front. That, of course, being the Value Voters straw poll. We had the results. They came in just before we began at the 4 p.m. hour. Herman Cain coming in second with 12%, actually 23% of the vote. Ron Paul winning with 37%. I'll begin with you, Andrea. Big surprise to you here that Herman Cain, he continues to rise his popularity.
Yeah, not a values voters poll, because he is probably the most socially conservative of all of them. Maybe Bachmann is as socially conservative, but he's gaining momentum. And I think people in the GOP have had such a hunger for a real conservative, not just socially, but fiscally as well. And if you see with each straw poll, the support that's disintegrated for, say, Bachmann or for Rick Perry after he fumbled that debate has gone to Herman Cain. It hasn't gone to Romney. Romney's been consistent and held and maintained a lead, but Herman Cain seems to get this other support, and he's growing. And the more voters hear about him, the more they like him.
Yeah. Andrea, and I believe that Herman Cain can take some of the establishment votes away from Mitt Romney. And when Mitt Romney ran the last time, Herman Cain supported him, so he can stand on his own by saying, I supported you the last time, now it's my turn. And Herman Cain won the first South Carolinian debate.
Yeah, I was going to say that
know
the very
who he
that was a great performance.
Our
Yes.
first debate, Herman Cain won. Florida, he won. Now the straw poll second.
He's got to win again, though, in this next debate.
Mary, you're a
He's
big
gotta
fan.
keep it up.
Yeah, I really, the more I've learned about him, the more I really, really like him. But I think what he brings to the table is something that you had said people are hungering for. Is he brings leadership to the table. He speaks like a leader, and he speaks very plainly and doesn't speak like a politician.
Exactly.
And that is so marketable right now. People haven't heard that in 2 years. They want a leader, and I think that's where he really beats everybody else.
And he makes the left furious, because then they can't
but I
call
wonder
conservatives
if you-
racist for not supporting
yeah.
Obama.
Exactly.
I
Well,
do
no,
wonder
let's
this,
not do the
though.
black thing.
Right, but
It's
we need
about
to go
the candidate.
to the next topic, but before
Right.
we go to that, this is what I'm wondering.
Okay.
You know, from the very beginning, from that South Carolina debate where all the pundits came out and they said, oh, this guy is so great and
Yes.
he won it.
Yes.
That continues to happen, but it's always followed by the but.
Right.
But
And that's what he
can't
says.
win.
And Herman Cain said, you know, people are coming to me asking me, why are you running for president? Well, I'm not doing it to go to Disneyland.
Yeah.
I'm in it to
Right.
win it. And the bottom line is this, people said that Barack Obama could not defeat Hillary. So I wouldn't be so sure that Herman Cain can't defeat Mitt Romney.
Well, he has to get an infrastructure together, and he's got to brush up on his foreign policy, but you should absolutely not count him out.
All right, we'll see what happens. Our next topic now, a new twist in the saga of that failed solar company, Solyndra. Maybe you heard about it. Well, emails obtained by Fox News show that the White House, they considered pumping more money in, another $5.4 million into the solar panel manufacturer as recently as August of this year. Mary, I'm going to start with you this time. Big surprise to you?
It's not a surprise, because clean energy, green energy is one of their mantras. That's one of their chosen, and they're picking and choosing what businesses fail and which businesses succeed. And they only wanted to put, what, $5.3 million in, considering they put $535 million in to begin with. That's nothing. So that's not that much more to keep it alive, to maybe get it to go, and they can point to it and say, look, here's a green energy company that's creating jobs.
But this is a smoking gun, and that Barack Obama, when he ran, he said he was going to change Washington, D.C., as he knows it. And Solyndra represents Washington, D.C. cronyism. The guy that's probably going to get them in trouble is Steve Spinner. He was a top fundraiser for Obama, then he became a top energy official, and the law firm that Steve Spinner's wife works for represented Solyndra, and Steve Spinner lobbied to get that
Yeah,
loan.
but I agree with you, Mary. I don't think this is scandalous at all. You look on the president's website, he told us he was going to do this. He was going to funnel money into pet projects. He did it through the stimulus. This is a bailout, essentially.
Right.
He believes in green energy, but here's the scandal. The real issue is whether or not an Obama donor, George Kaiser, who now we see emails just broke yesterday, was pressuring the White House to get the loan.
Yes.
He put in his own money. Did he pressure them to give a company a loan that he was an investor for, and then did he also get preferential treatment in bankruptcy court? Remember, he was paid back before all of us taxpayers
George Kaiser and Steve Spinner. George Kaiser was a top Obama fundraiser.
Right, so that's the issue.
Steve Spinner was actually appointed.
That's the issue.
That is the issue, and we still don't have answers to that, but we'll see what happens next, because a lot more will come out. Have to take a break now, and as the search continues for a missing baby in Missouri, the pressure on her parents, it is growing by the day. 10-month-old Lisa Irwin's mother says that her daughter vanished from her crib in the middle of the night, that police are accusing her of playing some part in the incident. Before we go to break, we actually, I do believe, have time to talk about this topic a little bit. Judge Jeanine Pirro is going to be talking with her parents as well, coming up at 9 p.m. tonight.
This is not another Casey Anthony situation. She's took a lie detector test, and people say that she failed, so I'm hopeful we're not in another debacle like that.
Yeah,
I had heard part of the Judge Jeanine interview that they interviewed. They've been airing on the channel, and I immediately thought something's not adding up here, because the husband got home at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then wakes his wife up and says all the lights are on, the front door's unlocked, and there's a screen missing, but he didn't go in and check on the baby right away. What parent does that?
I do want that clarified.
Yeah,
and hopefully Judge Jeanine will talk to him.
But what robber turns all the lights on before they leave? Who does that?
Right. Something smells for sure. It's very sad.
And the missing cell phones also. That
it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
But the parents in any incident like this, traditionally, they are always looked at first.
Exactly.
And the mother, in this case in particular, being the last one that was home at the time, alone with the baby.
Yes.
What mother doesn't wake up when she hears a noise in the house?
Exactly.
Right.
They do. They're not good sleepers. That's why they're so tired all the time, because they hear a noise and they're concerned about their child.
Well, I can't wait to see the interview this evening.
Yeah, it's going to be a good interview.
Should be some interesting stuff. So now we're going to take a break. Some say that Steve Jobs was the Thomas Edison of our time, why his life and his death touched so many. We'll talk about that coming up. And the world is still reeling days after the death of Apple co-founder and technology icon Steve Jobs. Jobs, of course, responsible for groundbreakers like the iPod, the iPad, but also the computer mouse and some of the earliest personal computers ever. Our power panel is back. Andrea Tantaros, Angela McClellan, and Mary Walter. So I'll begin with you this time, Angela. The passing of Steve Jobs, not unexpected, but still, I mean, it is a passing that definitely will be noticed and felt.
It is, and I mean, he's the father of technology. He is like the Thomas Edison of our time. And I believe, and you guys might say I'm a little misty-eyed here, that he held on to his life until the passing of the buck. I mean, for the new CEO to take over and then he dies the next day, it's something. He's a very strong man.
There's so many lessons you can learn from him. I mean, his mother chose, rather than to have an abortion, she chose to have him, gave him up for adoption. Imagine if there was no Steve Jobs, if she made that decision. And then he, working out of his garage, not taking government money, not with his hand out. I mean, really, entrepreneur of the truest sense, and really epitomizes the American dream.
What I found interesting is his death is against the backdrop of all these protests, and it's such a dichotomy, because they're all railing against big business, yet they're using all his products to get the word out about the evil big businesses. But instead of picking themselves up and starting their own company, much like he did, they're just going to stand there and complain and use his products to spread the complaints, which I thought was just so interesting, that instead of learning from this and seeing it for what it is, there's just a total blank wall there. They just don't see the connection.
As Greg Gutfeld, my co-host on The Five, says, there's makers, he says, and there's takers. And you're right, the takers are down at Wall Street.
And he was definitely a maker. Thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate it today. Thank you. Greg?